Speaking of BYD, what's your impression? If this question were asked over 10 years ago, I think the answer would be knockoff, cheap and poor technology. I still remember there was a hierarchy in the domestic automotive market at that time. Undoubtedly, BYD was at the bottom of this hierarchy. However, it is precisely such a car company that has now become an undisputed leader in the world's new energy vehicle sector. So how did BYD manage to achieve such a turnaround? What hardships did BYD experience during these more than 10 years? In this episode, Adu will talk about BYD's development history. When mentioning BYD, we must mention its founder Wang Chuanfu. Wang Chuanfu was born into a carpenter family in Anhui. The Wang family had 8 children, and Wang Chuanfu was the 7th. Thanks to his father's carpentry skills, although the family lived a humble life, they managed to barely make ends meet. However, when his father passed away from lung cancer, leaving the burden on his mother alone, the whole family's life became increasingly difficult, and just 2 years later, his mother passed away due to accumulated labor and illness. Just when Wang Chuanfu was completely hopeless and planned to drop out of school to work to supplement the family income, his brother Wang Chuanfu's wake-up call completely changed his name. It set Wang Chuanfu on the path of studying to change his fate. From then on, Wang Chuanfu began to study hard. In 1983, at the age of 17, Wang Chuanfu was admitted to Zhongnan Mining and Wildlife College with the highest score in the entire school. From then, in 1987, Wang Chuanfu was recommended to study at a private metal research institute in Beijing to continue his research on battery technology. After graduation, he stayed in the institute to serve. Due to his outstanding research achievements, Wang Chuanfu was exceptionally promoted to deputy director in his second year at work, making him the youngest cadre in the unit at the time. Wang Chuanfu had already become an expert in the domestic television field. In 1993, they established the Beige battery company, limited in Shenzhen, due to its relevance to Wang research field. He became the company's general manager. Not long after, there was news in Japan that they would abandon the traditional nickel lattice customization industry. Wang Chuanfu keenly sensed that China is fully capable of taking over this part of the industry. And the state-owned enterprise I work for tends in 1993 unwilling to advance recklessly, so after some thought and struggle, ultimately, he decided to quit his job and start his own business. In 1995, Wang Chuanfu took the 2.5 million yuan he borrowed from his cousin Liu Xianyang and established BYD. According to Wang Chuanfu himself, BYD wasn't chosen because of the more sophisticated meaning that everyone is now familiar with. It was simply because the two-character name was difficult to pass through industrial and commercial registration at the time. That's why there was a rather strange name like BYD. The company was established, but at that time, a nickel-cadmium battery production line could easily cost tens of millions, which was really not something a startup like Wang Chuanfu could afford. So after much research, Wang Chuanfu gradually explored a labor-intensive, high-tech approach. That means introducing a small amount of key equipment, and most production steps are completed by a large number of people. This strategy was later referred to as the robot strategy, which is a strategy where a small number of machines plus a large number of manual labor are used. Relying on this strategy, BYD eventually built a production line for a daily production of 4,000 nickel-cadmium batteries while only spending over $1 million on equipment, and the production cost is nearly 42% lower than that of Japanese manufacturers. BYD has used the same method to enter the lithium battery market with greater profit margins. Focusing on mobile phone batteries, relying on its price advantage and stable quality, BYD quickly secured a large number of orders, including Daum, Taiwan's largest manufacturer of cityless telephones, as well as top mobile phone manufacturers such as Motorola, Nokia, and TCR. By 2003, BYD has far surpassed Japan's Sanyo to become the world's largest mobile phone battery manufacturer. At the same time, Wang Chuanfu himself has also made it onto the Forbes mainland rich list, ranking 13th. At this point in the story, Wang Chuanfu can be said to be a true winner in life. What kind of car are you going to build then? But the big shots are the big shots, and their way of thinking is different from that of ordinary people like to do. Wang Chuanfu analyzed various fields at the time, and it was clear that mobile phones couldn't be made, couldn't compete with downstream companies, and couldn't make home appliances either. The competition was too intense, and real estate couldn't be done either. The threshold was too low. After much thought, the only way to create BYD electric vehicle was through 500 electric vehicles. It can achieve overtaking on the curve of fuel vehicles. Moreover, the core of electric vehicles is nothing more than batteries, and BYD is best at making batteries. Now is the best time to enter. In 2003, BYD acquired Qinchuan Automobile and officially entered the automotive industry, becoming the second private sedan manufacturer in China after Geely Automobile. Actually, before the acquisition, when Wang Chuanfu discussed his ideas with the company's senior officials, the vast majority of the senior officials were not optimistic about it. It's just that Wang Chuanfu has always kept his word within the company, so no one dares to oppose him in person. But the reaction from capital is much more intense. Wang Chuanfu has been threatened by investors one after another. If you do this, we will polish your stocks. Sure enough, as soon as the news of acquiring Qinchuan Automobile was announced, BYD's stock price immediately plummeted, with 30% of its market value evaporating within 2 days. However, Wang Chuanfu remained unmoved by it. The following year, BYD launched the pure electric taxi EF3, electric concept car AT, and hybrid sedan Tiger S. However, these cars did not make much of a splash in the market and quickly became too successful. However, this did not make Wang Chuanfu give up. Instead, it made him realize that it is still too early to launch electric vehicles, whether in terms of technology, market, or policy maturity. So, while Wang Chuanfu was maintaining the research and development of electric vehicles, he also started to manage the fuel vehicle. On one hand, it can accumulate market and car-making experience, and on the other hand, it can also contribute to the continuous research and development of electric vehicles. So how do you build a fuel-powered car? It's very simple. Additionally, still planning successful products on the market. Wang Chuanfu himself does not shy away from this point. He has publicly stated that BYD has succeeded by standing on the shoulders of giants. After confirming the strategy, in 2005, BYD's first best-selling model, the F3 is generally developed to mimic the Toyota Corolla, with only the rear styling imitating the fit of 3 boxes. The engine, on the other hand, is equipped with a Mitsubishi engine due to its low price. Once it was released, it became a hit. After finally releasing a hit model, the supplier is having issues again. And this also made Wang Chuanfu determined to invest heavily, starting to integrate various industrial chains based on fuel vehicle technology, forming a highly vertically integrated model. In the subsequent BYD cars, apart from glass and tires, most parts can be produced in-house. After the success of the F3 major products, BYD took the opportunity to launch the F3 modeled after General Motors Hyatt, as well as the S6 modeled after Yago and Camry, both of which were successful. With a burst of enthusiasm, Wang Chuanfu once said that BYD would become China's #1 automobile manufacturer in 2015. Becoming the world's #1 automobile manufacturer by 2025, such a wealthy friend in their prime. In 2008, BYD's first plug-in hybrid car, the F3 BM, was officially launched, pioneering the commercialization of electric vehicles, which successfully caught the attention of investment tycoon Buffett. After some investigation, Buffett bought 10% of BYD's stock for $230 million. With the blessing of the stock god's halo, BYD's popularity and stock price skyrocketed, creating a moment of immense popularity. In 2009, BYD entered the pure electric bus and pure electric forklift industries. In 2010, the world's first batch of pure electric taxis, the BYD E6, went into operation, and BYD also released its bus electrification strategy. However, the most successful things are often the moments when the greatest crisis lurks. During the period from 2010 to 2012, BYD encountered its darkest moment in history. From the perspective of the overall market environment, 2010 was a turning point in the growth rate of the domestic automotive industry. Since 2001, the growth rate of domestic automobile production has dropped from double digits to single digits. Gradually, and the impacts of crisis to joint venture car brands, domestic brands are seeking ways out for their. In March 2010, Geely acquired Volvo for $1.8 billion, which greatly benefited its core technology capabilities, brand image, and mastery of international sales channels. And the Great Wall had its eyes on the SUV take that was at its peak at that time. It has been proven that during the 6 years from 2010 to 2016, the compound annual growth rate of domestic SUV sales was as high as 37.6%. This also makes Great Wall Motors one of the biggest beneficiaries of the SUV market dividend. Let's look at BYD again. Wang Chuanfu has never given up on the layout in the electric vehicle field, investing a large amount of resources. A combination of photovoltaic plus energy storage plus electric vehicles has dragged down the research and development of fuel vehicles and the transformation of production lines, pushing back the time for new products to be launched. The technology and market conditions for electric vehicles are not yet mature. As for new fuel vehicles, they have been slow to launch, so dealers can only rely on F3 to barely BYD in order to achieve its annual goal. Went on a crazy shopping spree with dealers, which led to a boycott by the dealers at the time. Ultimately, it triggered a massive backdoor incident, resulting in 308 dealers subsequently leaving BYD. At the policy level, in 2011, the National Vehicle Purchase Tax Policy changed and eliminated the preferential vehicle purchase tax for models with a displacement of less than 1.62 liters. E-models were affected by this change. It is important to note that at that time, people buying BYD cars did so mainly because of cost effectiveness. With the elimination of this discount, the impact on sales can be imagined. In terms of internal management, during this period, BYD also exposed many issues, similar business sectors, internal corruption, projects into governing bankruptcy involved illegal land use. Such incidents occurred frequently. One typical incident was the car accident on May 26, 2012. A BYD E6 electric car was struck by an GTR traveling over 180 km per hour, causing the body to deform and eventually catch fire. This sparked widespread questioning about the safety of electric vehicles at that time. The automotive sector shrank, and they hoped to rely on their previous battery business. Unfortunately, the battery business encountered problems in 2010 due to the rise of smartphones. The electronic business, which previously occupied half of BYD's profit, saw significant decline in revenue from clients like Motorola and Nokia. Additionally, due to anti-dumping policies, BYD's European solar energy business suffered severe losses. By mid-2011, BYD's net profit had dropped by nearly 90%. It wasn't until 2012 that Wang Chuanfu publicly acknowledged that in the past, we focused solely on expanding quantity and scale without neglecting the improvement of brand quality. We made three types of mistakes. In distribution networks, media relations, and quality issues, we proposed a quality rectification movement mainly involving three levels of reform: constricting the sales network, cutting capital expenditures, and re-examining the vertical integration model. Let's focus on the third point, the vertical integration model. We mentioned it earlier, where companies integrate upstream and downstream supply chains to achieve self-production. The advantages of this model lie in its high degree of autonomy and control, which can greatly amplify the company's profitability during periods of rapid growth. In other words, you earn profits together with your suppliers. However, the disadvantages are quite obvious because everything has to be done by yourself, leading to excessively management costs, heavy assets, and increased risks. Moreover, from a long-term perspective, it also makes it easy for the lack of technological product innovation, as everyone under such a model buys and sells through fixed relationships, significantly reducing competitive pressure among divisions. This means your wax innovative awareness is definitely not as strong as that of a professional supplier in the market. Over technology and products easily lose competitiveness. Subsequently, Wang Chuanfu addressed the shortcomings of this model by implementing divisional companies. At the same time, he shut down some uncompetitive businesses, such as molds, rubber, paint, etc. Additionally, BYD began large-scale procurement of advanced equipment to replace previous labor-intensive methods. Simultaneously, they introduced international suppliers to purchase critical parts and advanced equipment. After 3 years of adjustments, BYD's sales finally returned to 470,000 units in 2015. However, this performance is far from good compared to Geely and Great Wall. Speaking of the only particularly outstanding achievement, it was in the field of new energy vehicles where BYD sales exceeded 60,000 units for the first time, placing them at. But unfortunately, the good times were short-lived. By 2017, BYD found itself in an unprecedented performance. China's new energy vehicle sales increased by 53% that year, while BYD only grew by 15%. In technology, the electric vehicle, EV, launched by BYD that year fell behind Tesla Model S and 3 in terms of range and intelligence as prices dropped to around $40,000. Regarding batteries, originally, BYD's phosphate iron battery had been leading domestic markets since its launch in 2007. However, Ningde Times, which started operating in 2011 with subsidies, aimed many domestic car manufacturers through their nickel-manganese cobalt batteries. By 2017, they surpassed BYD to become the world's largest manufacturer of rechargeable batteries. Faced with such a situation, Wang Chuanfu resolved to undergo a major reform. The core focus of this reform was the core technology of electric vehicles. BYD's first core technology was the DMI plug-in hybrid platform, along with 3 new models based on this platform. As the vanguard of fuel-saving cars, these new models lived up to expectations, becoming an important driving force for BYD's increase in new energy among the sales. Class and DMI became the best-selling models across BYD's entire lineup. In terms of batteries, once the king of the battery industry, BYD has recently been outperformed by Ningde Times nickel-manganese cobalt batteries. In March 2020, the Blade battery was launched, finally giving BYD a reason to be proud. Its domestic sales volume surpassed that of nickel metal hydride batteries. Technical innovation is not something that can be achieved overnight. The technologies we see today are inseparable from continuous R&D investment. Actually, looking at BYD's development history, technological innovation has been a core part throughout its entire development process. I believe this is closely related to Wang Chuanfu's background as a researcher in Israel. According to statistics, BYD has accumulated over 248,000 global authorized patents and developed many foresighted and cutting-edge technologies. Wang Chuanfu once said that BYD has a technology where there are many fish in a pool. When the market needs it, they just catch one out. And indeed, this is true. As the current leader in new energy vehicles, NEVs, BYD is the only car company globally that simultaneously master the core technologies of NEV supply chains, including battery, motor, power control, and vehicle fit. Also vertically integrates the NEV industry chain, spanning upstream raw materials, midstream components, and downstream complete vehicles, forming a complete closed-loop system. In the 21st year of Qianlong, when all conditions such as policies, technology, and market acceptance were mature, BYD relied on its long-term planning to achieve rapid growth. According to Anhui's data statistics, in 2022, the annual overall sales of passenger cars in our country were 2,054,300 units. BYD ranked first with an 8.8% share. And if we only look at the new energy vehicle sector, BYD tops the charts with a sales share of 31.7%. From January to June 2023, BYD once again accounted for 35.3% of sales in the new energy vehicle segment. They also topped the charts. 20 years later, BYD finally overtook others with the help of new energy. If we talk about BYD's booming sales 10 years ago, it's more about people making choices based on cheap prices. So 10 years later, BYD topped the charts with an average sales price of $167,000. With low sales, this undoubtedly represents people's recognition of its technology and quality. However, the war is far from over. The transformation of the automotive industry is divided into the first and second halves. The first half is about transformation. This is like half is about the speech at an industry summit. In terms of electric vehicle intelligence, BYD will face a more formidable rival, Tesla. There is no doubt that in the first half of the competition, BYD was in the first tier with its self-developed 3 electric system. But in terms of intelligence, Tesla takes the lead with its ultra-powerful chips, visual algorithms, and operating system. BYD is catching up. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel and also like and comment.